Hi, my name's Lynn. I work at the Vietnam History Museum. Today, my partners and I will be introducing a new museum exhibition which explores the social, political, and economical legacies of the French colonialism.
The French colonizers replaced the existing Chinese-based writing system with a Romanized writing that was much easier for the citizens to learn, which dramatically increased literacy rate. Today, Vietnam still uses Romanized writing system, and the literacy rate has increased from 4% to 97%. Furthermore, French was the official language of Vietnam during the colonial rule. And to date, Vietnam contains the largest Francophone community in Southeast Asia. Over 6% of the population speaks fluent French and is often used in international relations and education. In the Vietnamese language spoken today, there are many French loanwords and place names. A significant legacy that can be seen throughout Vietnam is European architecture. The French built cinemas, government buildings, opera houses, libraries, and hotels, reflecting traditional European designs. Famous examples include the Municipal Theatre, Notre Dame Basilica, and the beautiful colonial house in Hanoi. Among many things, the French brought their own food, which has merged into Vietnamese cuisine. Today, some of the ingredients introduced by the French, such as the potatoes, asparagus, cauliflower, lettuce, and carrots, are used so frequently in local cooking. Perhaps two of the most noticeable aspects of modernized Vietnamese food was inspired by the French: coffee and baguette. You have heard of Vietnamese banh mi, a staple street food and national dish. It is a courtesy colonial baguette sliced in half, spread with butter and pâté, then stuffed with meat and French toppings. It is an example of the fusion of French and Vietnamese cuisine. Today, if you were to walk down any street in Vietnam, you would not have to walk more than a few meters to find a cafe, coffee shop, or bakery filled with chocolate and croissants, which originated in France. Furthermore, many restaurants serve examples of French cuisine and French wine. Aspects of French culture is seen in all aspects of life in Vietnam, and it is so common that the Vietnamese regard it as their own culture.
Hello, my name is Tam Nhu Lin. This exhibit shows artifacts representing the political legacies of the French colonization. Today, I'll be discussing the current political structure, the resistance war, and Vietnam's relationship with the French today. Prior to colonization, Vietnam ran under the monarchy system. The French colonizers abolished the monarchy system and introduced their own government structure. Vietnam currently is under a single-party socialist republic framework, where the president of Vietnam is the head of state and the prime minister of Vietnam is the head of government. It is led by the Communist Party of Vietnam, but it is also influenced by the principles of democratic centralism and capitalism. These artifacts are a reminder of Vietnam War and their negative consequences. During the colonial period, the Vietnamese were treated like slaves and had their basic rights denied. For example, the peasants was confiscated of their land and was forced to work long hours with little pay. This left millions of peasants landless and impoverished.
Today, poverty is still one of the biggest issues in Vietnam.
French colonial rule was also a precursor to the communist system that Vietnam runs under today. The Vietnamese citizens was dissatisfied of the French regime, which led to widespread support of the Communist Party, and a revolution, which caused the First Indochina War that led from 1945 to 1954. This ended with the Geneva Conferences. Under the Geneva Conferences, Vietnam was split into both South and North sectors, with the South being a capitalist country allied with the US and Western powers, and the North Vietnam was being a communist country allied with China. This is both a positive and negative influence, as it impacted and changed the current Vietnam policies, but it also started the Vietnam War. The war killed 800,000 South Vietnamese and 1,175,000 North Vietnamese. It eventually ended when the armed forces of the Communist Party annexed the South. This is why today, Vietnam now runs under a communist.
Today, as a result of the French rule, Vietnam runs under a socialist-oriented market economy. It is a leading agricultural exporter, has a high globalization ranking, and serves as an attractive destination for foreign investment in Southeast Asia. Now, I will be introducing an exhibit of the economic legacies of colonialism. The colonizers wanted rice, rubber, coal, and tea from Vietnam and made major investments in these industries, making Vietnam a major exporter of these goods. Prior to colonization, Vietnam was a village-oriented market and self-sufficient economy, not involved in any trade. The colonizers separated the North and South regions for agriculture and manufacturing, allowing industrialization. Today, agriculture is still responsible for 20% of the country's total income. The French saw rice export as a major opportunity for economic profit and expanded this industry. They confiscated the peasants' land to use as rice plantation fields and built major irrigation systems. As a result, the land for rice cultivation quadrupled, and Vietnam began exporting rice. To date, rice paddies are the most common sights in the countryside, and rice is Vietnam's #1 industry. It contributes to 35% of the country's annual trade profit, and Vietnam has recently become the world's 3rd largest rice exporter. The French also wanted rubber for industrialization and used Vietnam to grow rubber plantation fields. This made Vietnam a leading exporter of rubber, and they became a significant player in the industrial world. Soon, large companies such as the Michelin Tire Company started to invest in Vietnam by buying thousands of acres of lands. This was a significant stepping stone for Vietnam building international relationships and globalizing. Today, Vietnam has a 79% support for globalization, among the strongest in all of Southeast Asia. And it has a globalization of 96%.
Throughout Vietnam, there is a 92% availability of foreign culture. If you were to walk through the streets of Saigon today, you would see international fast food chains such as KFC, McDonald's, and Dairy Queen. In the cinemas, you would see many Western films. Many people wear international clothing brands such as Nike, LV, and Hollister. Evidence of foreign culture is prominent throughout the city streets of Vietnam. Despite the bloody resistance war after the Vietnam independence, France and Vietnam still maintains a close relationship. And subsequently, Vietnam was able to build a relationship with the EU. Currently, the EU exports high-tech products to Vietnam and imports agricultural goods. The EU-Vietnam trade was worth over 27.6 billion euros last year. Furthermore, the EU is a significant investor in Vietnam, committing more than $600 million in foreign direct investment each year.
Legacies of the French colonization is heavily prominent throughout Vietnam. The language people speak, traditions people follow, cuisine they eat. The country's political system and civil codes, Vietnam's main industries and their globalization scale and international relations.
Today, France makes huge contributions in developing Vietnam. Vietnam receives development assistance from 3 different channels in France: the Official Development Assistance, French Developmental Assistance, and soft loans from Priority Service Fund. Through these channels, France has granted Vietnam 1.2 billion euros to help on over 210 developmental projects, and they remain heavily involved in various administration, education, and agricultural and tourism projects throughout the city.
For example, the French are currently making plans for the Trans-Systems and Satellite Program. France also acts as a mediator for Vietnam in diplomatic services, such as supporting Vietnam on the negotiations with the EU and the wish of being a non-permanent member of the UNSC, and the wish to join the World Trade Organization. With the French support, Vietnam has undergone diplomatic advancements and improvements.